How to write an essay for your English language SACs and your exams. The most important thing to do when writing an essay is that we have to choose the correct topic for us to write. To do this, in your exam, you'll be given 3 topics that you need to choose from. The first thing you need to look at is what themes do the topics fall under. For example, are they looking at gender speak? Are they looking at teen speak? Or how we create identity through the use of our language? Especially in the exam, all of your essay questions will be asking you to refer back to the Australian context, and that's really showing how much knowledge you have from Unit 4. You then need to have a look at the stimulus material to see whether you think it will help you, or will it just make the essay writing harder for you. So the best thing to do is to have a look at it and see if it generates any ideas that you could write about. Remember that you do not need to necessarily quote the stimulus material directly, but you can definitely use the ideas from it. For example, if you have a picture or a cartoon that is talking about gender speak, and the essay topic's looking at creating identity through language, then you could definitely have a paragraph on gender speak, but you don't need to necessarily say stimulus B talks about gender speak. You need to have a look to make sure that you've got contemporary references for the topic, as this is part of what you'll be assessed on. If your essay does not include any contemporary references, then it will not be a high scoring response. Your contemporary references must be different from the stimulus material and must be your own. Some places that you can get contemporary references from are from reality TV shows, from current affairs or the news, or things like The Project, class discussions, Facebook statuses, YouTube videos, linguistic readings, or Flipboard articles. And I have another video on Flipboard and how to use Flipboard in English language that you can view at a different time. You need to have a look to make sure that you'll have enough information to write your essay on. So for example, if you're looking at one of the topics and you're thinking of doing it, but you can only come up with 2 main arguments or ideas, then I suggest you choose a different topic, because for an English language essay, you need minimum 3 arguments to be able to write a well-written essay. Planning. Planning is the most important part of the essay, because this is what you'll be looking at for the rest of your writing. You will be referring back to your plan to ensure that you're staying on task and that you're answering the prompt correctly. The first thing you need to come up with is what is your contention. And remember, this is if you agree or disagree. And if the prompt isn't necessarily a question, turn it into one. Ask yourself, do I agree or do I disagree with this prompt, and why? The why will come in handy later when you go to write your paragraphs. So your main arguments, as previously said, are your why. Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? Okay. Try to get about 4 to 5 main arguments, because we can turf the ones that don't quite work a little later. What information will you take from the stimulus? It is important to write this in your planning, as then that way you can make sure that when you're writing your essay, you are referring back to that stimulus material, as again, it is part of what you'll be marked against. And make sure that you write down what argument you're going to use it for. Is it going to be in paragraph 1, or is it going to be in paragraph 3? Or are you looking at a different stimulus material for each paragraph? If so, you need to write which one so that you can refer back. Remember that you will be writing in timed pressure, okay? So your plan is there to help you along the way when you have a mind blank or you have writer's block and you don't know what you're going to write next. The same thing you need to do for your contemporary references. Which ones are you going to use? where are you going to use them, and what are you going to use from them? So for example, if you're looking at an article, what part of the article are you going to use? Because you can't write about the whole article. What quotes are you going to use? What statistics? What have they come up with about language that helps you make your point? More planning. This is where we go to plan our paragraphs in a little bit more detail. So what will your topic sentence be? What is your main argument for this paragraph? Make sure that you're not using your evidence first. You want the topic sentence to not relate to your evidence, okay? That's the part that's going to come next. You need to look at how does your topic sentence answer the prompt. So we're explaining our topic sentence a little clearer. How is this argument answering what you're meant to be doing? What evidence are you going to use? Is it part of the stimulus material or is it your own contemporary reference? Either one is fine and you can use both. Just make sure that if you are using both, you are explaining how the evidence supports your topic sentence. Okay, by explaining how your evidence supports a topic sentence, you're then therefore explaining how your evidence is linking and supporting to the main argument and to the main question. Then we need to link the paragraph together by quickly summarizing everything you've spoken about. So remember that your linking sentence is your mini conclusion for your paragraph, and that you need to talk about how you have answered, how this argument is the sole argument for answering your essay topic. Now that we've got the planning out the way, we can start writing. So make sure that you're checking your work constantly. You don't want to keep talking about the same thing over and over again, because that makes the writing boring and also comes across that you're confused. And you don't want your assessor to think that you're boring or confused. Make sure that you're using the standard English, as this is a formal essay. Even though you may be writing about informal topics and you may be swearing, you still need to be using the correct grammar and the correct syntax. Make sure you use third person language. Can't stress that enough. It needs to be third person, as that does what? Increases the formality. If you are using anecdotal evidence, you need to discuss it in the third person still. So for example, if you are using a class discussion, it would be in your best interest to say something like, a recent discussion in a Year 12 classroom showed that, and then write what you're going to say. You don't want to say my class or even a western suburb school or an eastern suburb school or whatever. You want to just say a recent class discussion in a Year 12 classroom. Once you have finished writing, or even as you are writing, you need to make sure that you're checking your work. You want the work to make sense. So if you read over a paragraph and it doesn't make sense to you, chances are it's not going to make sense to anybody else. A really good idea is to make sure that you read these things over as you're writing. So once you finish a paragraph, read it. Does it make sense? Is it doing exactly what you want it to do? And the reason why I say after you write the paragraph and not after you write your essay is because if you're in the exam, you may not have enough time to change your whole essay, because it may change some things, especially if you haven't answered the prompt. So check your paragraphs to make sure that they are answering what you are supposed to be answering. And if you have done your planning correctly, you should have no problem with this whatsoever. Make sure that your arguments are clear. Do they express very clearly your contention, or are they changing? You do not want your contention to change throughout your essay, as that shows that you're confused, and you do not want to come across as confused to the assessors. Have you included at least one of the stimulus? This is very important. The stimulus is not there just to make the page look prettier. You need to be using it in your essay because, again, this is something that you will be marked against when it comes time to assess your essay. So make sure that you've included at least one. Again, it does not have to be a quote, it can just be the general idea of things. And also make sure that you're including your contemporary references as well. Remember that this is an essay and not an analytical commentary, and so therefore it does need an introduction and it definitely needs a conclusion. Make sure that your conclusion does not have any new evidence in there. It is just summarizing what you've already spoken about. That's your punching point for, yes, I have answered this is correct, and this is why my contention works. Again, try and use that without the third person. Once you have finished writing your essay and once you have checked your work, it is time to hand your essay in. So make sure you hand it in to your teacher for marking, and make sure you take on the feedback that your teacher gives you, not just the score that they give you. It's really important to have a look at the feedback and then change your essay so that you can fix it, so that you know how to fix the language, because again, we can't give you that feedback once you're in the exam. And if you're reading this back and going, oh, that's something like my teacher always says to me, at least then that way you know how to fix it. Once you've fixed it, hand it back in again and see if you can get any more feedback, and then get your teacher to mark it again to see how your score has improved through changing that feedback. After you've written your essay, and I know that my classes are definitely going to know what I'm going to say with this, but after you have written your essay, you have to repeat the steps again with another prompt. Now you might be saying that it's really hard to find prompts for English language, and I'm just going to show you exactly how easy it is. So if you go onto Google and type in the English language pages, you will come up to this page. And here we can scroll down to look at the past exams and examination reports. Now again, you might say that we only have the exams from 2012 to 2015 because that's the current study design. I'm now going to tell you that you're wrong. You don't just have these ones, but there were also essays in all of these exams here. So that is quite a lot of essays. So you have from 2001 to 2015. Now if we click on one of those and scroll all the way down to the essay section, all the way to the end, we will come here where we've got some stimulus material similar to what you've got. Look at that. And then your question, is anything in language taboo these days? Refer to at least two subsystems in your response. The only difference between these exams and the exams that you will see at the end of the year or at the end of your year 12 is this, and I'll show you with this one. The only difference is that this one is saying, to what extent is this true in contemporary Australian context? So your essays will be asking you to refer back to the Australian context, because that's the really big part of Unit 4, and that's what comes through with these essays. So that's not to say that you still can't use those essays. We can still use them, so we'll go back to the 2011 one. We can still use the essay. Oops. But we can just add on the to what extent is this true in the current Australian context. Now some of these essays may be missing some of the stimulus material, as you will see here, and that's due to copyright restriction. VICA cannot give us that anymore. But that's still, though, you still have 4 pieces of stimulus material there that you can use in your response. So that is how to write an essay for English language and for your SACs and for your exams, and I hope that it has helped. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask your teachers, and we're happy to be here whenever to help you. The more essays you write, obviously, the better a writer you become, and the more help it will give you for the end of year exam and for your SACs as well. So practice, practice, practice. You will never find one of us will turn you down for writing an essay or writing a practice essay. We'll probably actually jump with joy. So happy writing and good luck.